Praise be to our Lord Jesus Christ, now and forever. Amen. The Legita Bonum. I am particularly delighted having another opportunity to share the Word of God with you. And today seems to be a blessed day. As a matter of fact, the gospel reading talks about blessedness. And this blessedness goes all the way through everything we do here. For those who understand, God has set for us a way that leads to success. And that success will eventually lead us to eternity. And so we're going to be reflecting on the topic, the pathways to sainthood. The pathways to sainthood. But then, as a way of introduction, there is something that runs all through the reading, especially the Sermon on the Mount, as was given by Christ, and that is compassion. Compassion. Seeing the crowd, Jesus was moved with compassion. He took pity on them, and then he faced his disciples and taught them the Sermon on the Mount. Compassion is a virtue. It's a virtue that is so necessary in an academic institution like ours. It is a virtue that leads both the teachers and the students to understanding one another, our predicaments, our particular conditions, and disposing us to better understanding that will lead us to good teaching and learning. Because the teacher needs to look with compassion on the students in order to understand their particular problems, in order to assist the students the proper way. The same thing, the students too will need to look at the teachers in order to, with compassion, in order to understand their efforts, the effort they're making in order to impact so much on them. Compassion is a virtue that is very necessary for teaching and learning. But Christ also knows, he knew that he would not be able to do it alone. And that is why as soon as he sat down on the mount and his disciples came around him, he started teaching them, because he knew that teaching them the fundamentals of human relationship, the fundamentals of approach to issues, then the disciples will be able to deal with the crowd more humanely, much more appropriately. And in that way, they'll also impact the pathways to salvation, to sainthood on them. Being a teacher means a lot. Christ has taught us that teaching is something that goes on everywhere, even on the mount. It happens wherever you find people who are in need of learning. On the mountain, in the classrooms, in the hostels, in the chapel, in the hall, in the bedrooms, of course, in the toilets, and the pathways everywhere. Wherever you see students, you teach them. It's an opportunity to teach. Especially if there is a particular need at that particular moment to correct a wrong. And that is why whoever calls himself a teacher has to be disposed all the time. Has to be disposed each time he or she identifies a particular problem a student has, wherever it is. The most important thing is that the problem is identified and that the teacher is moved with compassion on the student. And then the student gets helped at that particular moment. Very important in understanding today's homily is the meaning of the word blessed. Because each time it is announced, or each time we hear the word blessed, our mind goes straight away to material prosperity, mundane prosperity. But it's something that goes beyond that. It is something that expresses a spiritual kind of blessedness, a joy that is deeper than the ordinary understanding of the word blessing. Of course, the Greek word makarios tells us the sense in which Christ used the word blessed. It is an expression of an inner joy, a spiritual joy, and satisfaction that lasts that endures beyond this world. A joy that goes even with suffering, hardship, difficulties. But it's kind of joy, a kind of blessedness that gives something that human beings cannot give. And that is why Christ said that this kind of blessedness leads to heaven. The end point of the various items he mentioned were all geared towards eternal salvation, making heaven, sainthood. I think the understanding, to understand better what Christ meant by the word blessed, we need to analyze a little the philosophical understanding of two words: happiness and pleasure. Happiness is not what we think it is. Happiness is different from pleasure. If, for instance, someone out of stress, and maybe after having a very difficult time and having gone through the same kind of troubles in the family, he decides to go out to a bar to take a bottle of beer or two, or to get drunk in order to get momentarily out of his problem. At that particular moment, he might think that he is deriving happiness. But that is not actually happiness. What he is driving at that particular moment is pleasure, is what is called pleasure. Pleasure is a kind of joy that is momentary. You get it just now, and in the next moment, you get back into the source of your problem, which you felt you were solving. That is pleasure. Let me give a specific instance. A young girl who gets into a relationship with a boy might think he is having some fun and enjoying herself. But if on the course of it, she gets pregnant, that joy fizzles away. She begins to suffer another aspect of it that is very painful. That kind of momentary joy she thought she was having is not happiness. It is called pleasure. It is called what? Pleasure. Happiness and blessedness, the blessedness which Christ is talking about is something that can be understood in terms of happiness. Something that lasts beyond this world. Something that lasts forever. Anything that can make you sad after you had experienced it does not fall within this range of blessedness. So if we place the understanding of happiness and pleasure side by side with the understanding of the blessedness Christ is talking about now, then we'll be able to see that the kind of blessedness that Christ is talking about is something that comes through suffering. A joy, a spiritual joy that can even be enjoyed even when you are not feeling some pains. And that is what students do. That is also what everyone who wishes to be successful in life does. You burn your midnight lamp today trying to get yourself into the spirit of academics. You get a lot. Get yourself very much prepared for WAEC and for life beyond WAEC. Perhaps during your WAEC you score all A's. At the very moment you were suffering, studying, burning your midnight lamp, it isn't something pleasant. It isn't something palatable. But the very moment you get your results, discovering that you have got all A's, do you experience a kind of happiness or not? Fine. The same thing in life. Someone who has gone out for an apprenticeship, serving someone, learning a skill, at that particular moment learning it is not always very palatable. But by the time that comes of his labor begins to show, he becomes very happy. A student who has decided to sell off her shoes and pay her ways into studying her books. You still remember it? Yes. Fine. Sacrifice something at the moment, but eventually she is going to gain it abundantly. Especially by the time the person gets into the university, seeing how easy academic work could be because the foundation has been laid, the person becomes very happy. And then, if eventually it leads to a higher level of success, perhaps the person gets one title, academic title or the other. Maybe a doctor, a barrister, name it. What? Fine. And so on and so forth. Once you start adding those feats to your CV, curriculum vitae, then you become more joyful. And eventually, if you become very lucky and very much blessed by God, that you get some job, a nice paying job, that makes you comfortable and even build up your fame, you become all the more happier. So this is the kind of blessedness that Christ is talking about. A blessed, an inner, a spiritual joy, an inner happiness that comes through suffering and self-denial. We will quickly and snappily go through the various points made by Christ as he taught us the Beatitude. The first one is the poor in spirit. The poor in what? Spirit. The poor in spirit are those who recognize their dependence on God. Who realize that without God they can do nothing. They realize their lack of superiority to their neighbors in spite of their positions, in spite of their wealth, in spite of their power. And they make their journey through life in humility, contributing to the society, the good of the society and the need of the society in appreciation of God's goodness, in appreciation of God's endowment. These are the people who are poor in spirit. And of course, Christ tells us that theirs is the kingdom of heaven. You may be intelligent. Some people are more intelligent than the others. Some people know that they are intelligent, and that puffs them off. Some teachers know they are talented. That too could puff someone off. But those who are really poor in spirit are those who recognize those qualities in them, and notice also that it's not their own making. It's just a talent God has given them for the service of humanity. They see their positions as the administrator, the principal, the dean, the vice principals, their positions as classroom teachers, form coordinators. They see all these positions as an opportunity to serve. And they could not have made it if God had not given them the opportunity. So they are really poor in spirit, and they use that office, their offices, to serve, to render service to humanity. Christ recognizes this sort of fitness, and he wants us, all of us, to acquire it. If you are more intelligent than others, it's an opportunity for you to bring them up. Some people are very selfish about God's gift to them. They hardly ever give others their notes to copy. They hardly ever explain anything to anyone. That is selfishness. That is what? Selfishness. They are not poor in spirit. They have not learned how to recognize that God, that to depend on God, and also to recognize that they are not superior to others, but for the grace of God. The second point made by Christ is that blessed are those who mourn. Those who mourn, those who are very sorrowful, the sorrowful of heart, for their sins and for the mistakes of others, and also for the bad policies that spell suffering in the society. Those who really know that a mistake can have serious impacts, negative impact on the lives of others. These are those who mourn. They are very sorrowful about this, the happening in the society, especially as it concerns their own offices. For instance, it is not difficult for us to move from one place to another. If all Nigerians, especially the ruling class, are very sorrowful, if they have this kind of blessedness, those who mourn, then we wouldn't have the kind of insecurity we have in the society. Then we wouldn't have the kind of economic meltdown we have in the society. They would be working day and night to alleviate the problem. The same thing is what it is in an academic institution like this. Those who really mourn are those who recognize that the suffering humanity has needs for our help, has needs for our collective effort towards alleviating their problems. They are those who actually understand what I may call negative utilitarianism, as Kapapa would say. Those who understand that happiness is to be spread when you identify people's problems, the problems that spell sorrow in the society, and address it. It could be in an academic society like this, academic institution, even as a student, as a classroom prefect, as a senior prefect, as a disciplinarian, and so on and so forth. If you're able to identify the problems and then out of sorrow for those things and the kind of trouble they cause humanity, go out your way to solving all of them, then you will really mourn. And of course, the reward which Christ says goes to them is that they will be comforted. They will be comforted. And then the meek. The meek are the gentle, the disciplined, the self-controlled in passion, urges, senses, speech, and behavior. They do not pride their powers, their positions, their wealth, their intelligence. They are really gentle. They have deep self-control. And because of their self-control, of course, they get people's admiration. And in offices, of course, people like that get promoted easily. Because they see as a habit of life qualities that are needed in strategic offices. And that is why Christ said that they're going to inherit the earth. Their reward is going to begin from the earth, from this world. That is the meaning. So if you are disciplined, if you understand that discipline is a virtue, as a matter of fact, all your learnings are geared towards making you disciplined, self-controlled. That means when you grow up, you will not be jumping coups. When you queue up to fetch water, supposing there is water scarcity, of course in Queens, such a thing is not to be talked about. But in some other schools, as we too experienced when we were growing up, we queued up for water, for resources. There could be something which we need to queue up for. Maybe you pass your plates and then you wait for the food to go round. And being gentle, you don't take the light and allow others to go hungry. Being gentle and disciplined means you will not make others suffer because of your indiscipline. Being disciplined is what education can do for you. And as a matter of fact, every course in the university is called a discipline. Every course is called what? Discipline. Because every single subject you offer has something it inculcates in you, on you. And that is the discipline it is giving you. When you grow up, you don't need to jump the queue when you queue up for fuel. You don't need to block the lane of the oncoming vehicles because you would like to be faster than the rest of the other people. If you do it, then you don't have the virtue of discipline. That is, you are not meek. Today, I have the opportunity of talking to you. So, what about those who hunger for righteousness? Blessed are those who hunger for righteousness. That is, those who want the right things done. The teachers who would like to do what is correct without being forced to. The form teacher who would come to the school and on daily basis take roll call of the students, mark the registers properly, and not do it perfunctorily. Maybe you get to your home and then you start doing it, marking for someone you never knew whether she was in class or not. That is not being that is not testing for righteousness. If you are, of course, if you look around, the compound is very clean. Bravo to all of you for that. If you are in any of the committees, the sanitary committee, disciplinary committee, and so on and so forth, and you do your work perfunctorily, then you are not just hungering for righteousness. You are simply doing it perfunctorily. The merciful, blessed are the merciful. Those who have mercy on others, who know that others are suffering, those who are able to forgive, those who are able to extend the love of God to others. They are the merciful. And as a matter of fact, you still remember the couple works of mercy? You still remember it? Yes. Name them. Number 1, feeding the poor, visiting the sick, clothing the naked, giving water to the thirsty, sheltering the homeless, all of them. These are the corporal works of mercy. You can't do without them. In order to, if you must make sainthood, you must take them to heart and show mercy to others. Blessed are those who are pure in heart, those whose heart desire to do the good always, to be holy, to go for confession always. Those who desire always to keep themselves pure. They go to communion and the state of grace. They make efforts. They explore the opportunities given them for confessions when their confessors come. These are the ones who belong to the camp of the pure in heart. They are always unsoiled. They are always unpolluted by gossip. They don't join the bad wagons. They keep themselves pure always. And God says they are going to have a vision of Him. They are going to be rewarded in the company of the saints with the eternal vision of God. And as a matter of fact, the second to the last, those who make peace. Those who make peace. Those who reconcile hates, differences, and eliminate strife. These are people who rebuild relationships, who cooperate with Christ in his mission of reconciling the world. They are not bigots. They chew bigotry, and God, of course, called them sons of God. They are sons of God. Blessed are the persecuted. Those who are persecuted for doing what is right. Those who are persecuted for telling the administrator what is wrong in the school. The rest of the students bounce on them, on her, and extract a toll of flesh on her for divulging very important secrets. The person who will be suffering for letting the principal know what is going wrong in the school. The person who will be suffering for doing something that is correct. And then, as a matter of fact, when classes connive against the authorities, when they connive against the hostel mistresses, the very one who goes outside of the clique becomes a problem. And as a matter of fact, she is persecuted. Those people being persecuted for doing what is correct. Of course, this is the kingdom of God. These are the pathways to sainthood. Pathways to success in life. Pathways that will lead to greater opportunities tomorrow. Comfort in life, comfort in heaven. They are blessed conditions that go beyond this world into eternity. Let us ask Almighty God, who has given us the opportunity to reflect today on the ways to sainthood, the pathways to sainthood, give us also the wisdom to apply them in our lives and make us better persons in the society and successful students and successful teachers. Peace be with you.